Hello everyone, welcome back to another Mission Impossible episode review. This time I'm reviewing Season 3, Episodes 2-3. It's a two-parter called The Contender. Sometimes I've seen it called The Contenders. So Jim gets his instructions while cruising out on a small boat. The mission? Take down two bad guys, boxing promoter primarily, Buckman, and syndicate man, Waylon, who are corrupting professional and amateur sports and making the United States look bad on the world stage. Okay. The dossier scene is back for this one, interestingly, although I'm sure that this footage was shot last season, and some of the images are inserted just for the sake of this episode. The only point of the scene is to introduce us to a guest agent, if you want to call him that, Ricky Lemoyne, a boxer. Jim visits Ricky at a hospital, and we learn that Ricky's hands were hurt rescuing a pilot from an army plane. Probably in Vietnam, although that's not mentioned. Ricky is incredulous that Jim has a plan for him to become champion again somehow in order to execute the mission, and can't imagine it being done without fixing fights, which he doesn't want to be a part of. Jim assures him that they won't fix any official fight, so Ricky agrees. It turns out that the plan involves Barney impersonating Ricky and relying on his amateur Navy boxing experience. We cut to exciting footage of Barney and others training, and we see Cinnamon sitting by, admiring a boxer named Ernie Stachek, as Buckman arrives with his henchman Wesley, played by Sugar Ray Robinson. Buckman is there to direct traffic, including picking winners and losers. Barney has a lot of trouble fighting like Ricky, but continues to practice and gets fitted with prosthetics to look like Ricky. A young fighter named Artie confronts Buckman, refusing to lose a fight, and Buckman says he admires his integrity, tearing up his contract and saying, "You're on your own, kid." Wesley sees the poor kid out into an elevator shaft. Cinnamon picks up Ricky in what must be a ridiculously expensive convertible for a date or something. Wait, did I say Ricky? I'm sorry. Cinnamon picks up Stachek in what must be a ridiculously expensive convertible. Buckman tells Waylon that he plans to expand into other sports, and he wants a bigger cut. Waylon grudgingly agrees. That night at the fights, they notice Cinnamon with Ernie, and Barney as Ricky makes an appearance for the crowd. Jim loosens a pipe in the hallway of Waylon's private entrance, but one of Waylon's men heads down to get smokes, forces his way past Willie, the guard, with a gun, so Jim is forced to hide up on a pipe to allow him out. On the way out, Buckman and Wesley hear Barney and Rollin talk to the press, indicating that Ricky is preparing a comeback, and Buckman immediately figures that he would make a great opponent for Stachek. As Waylon leaves, the pipe bursts open, and Jim saves him from it, dashing away quickly but leaving behind his wallet, identifying him as an ex-con named Phil Emmett. The next day, Cinnamon talks to Buckman, saying she heard about him from a girl named Connie at the salon, and he's the one she's really interested in meeting. Buckman sets up a match for Ricky, who's also at the gym, and then leaves with Cinnamon. Waylon's hood Vince finds Jim the next day and brings him to Waylon's office. He gives Jim $1,000 for helping him out the other night and offers him a job in the betting office when Jim says he has some experience with accounting under Vince's watchful eye. For Barney and Ricky's return fight, the IMF has planned to use a gas to slow his opponent Stevens down, to which Ricky takes some umbrage, but Jim reminds him that this isn't a money fight. It's just to convince Buckman to move forward with their plan. That night, Rollin distracts the gym's janitor, a former boxer, talking about his old matches so that Jim can set up the gas at the ring. Unexpectedly, Wesley shows up with some guys to shoot craps, and Rollin joins in to try and buy Jim some time, but unfortunately one of the dice goes under the ring right near Jim's foot. On to part 2. Rollin shaves the other die slightly to buy Jim time to get out, and fortunately he's able to. The next day, Stachek is a bit miffed to see Cinnamon with Buckman as he and Waylon arrive to see Barney as Ricky's fight. The first round is tough on Barney, but Willie activates the gas and he's able to win handily. Buckman is impressed, but Stachek angrily downs Barney with one punch. Barney wants at him, but Buckman tells him to save it for the ring. Jim is able to get a list of Waylon's bookies. Rollin, as Ricky's manager, meets with Buckman, who offers him the standard do-as-you're-told deal, which Rollin angrily refuses, telling Barney as Ricky and Willie the cornerman to stay away from Buckman. This is so that Wesley can overhear when he comes over. Wesley comes over for a chat with a gun. pushing Rollins' face into the oven and turning the gas on until he agrees to sign Buckman's deal. Barney starts out by winning a bunch of fixed fights, moving up the card. Then, of course, Buckman says it's time for Barney to go down in the third round to Stachek, to his famed surprise. Jim gets a woman to go to the bookies and place bets as lots of money comes in on Richie to beat Stachek. And the woman also comes to the main betting parlor with Waylon getting a look at her to place a massive $25K bet. She's Cinnamon's height, but wearing dark glasses and has dark hair. Jim offers to tail her to find out who's really behind the bet, and Waylon agrees to let him. The fight starts, and the pivotal third round starts, and Barney doesn't go down as planned. Richie heads down to the dressing room while Buckman tells Wesley to give Stachek some help in the form of a pin to cut Barney, with Buckman reminding Rollins and Barney that they better fall in line if they want to leave the arena alive. The pin cuts to Barney's glove, tipping him off to what's going on. Jim arrives, telling Waylon he was detained by the cops, and that's why he was delayed, but tells him that the woman went to Buckman's apartment after placing her bets. Barney wins by TKO, and Waylon tells Jim to wait in the office upstairs and tells Vince to bring Buckman up there too. Buckman and Wesley prepare to give the IMF members at the ring the what for, but Vince says there's another priority, and Waylon wants them right away. Buckman also corrals Cinnamon upstairs, and now everyone's in one room. Cinnamon is able to put something in Buckman's pocket, as Jim claims she's the one who placed the bets, finding dark glasses and a comb with dark hair in her purse. Waylon says it's obvious that Buckman put Cinnamon up to placing the bets and demands the receipts. Cinnamon looks at Buckman, and of course the receipts are found in his pocket. Jim offers to get Cinnamon out of the room, and he does. Buckman says he's being set up, and Wesley reaches for a gun, but Vince is too fast, shooting both of them. In the locker room, Richie tells the press he's retiring due to his injuries as the IMF power walk out of the arena. Mission accomplished. I'm going to give this episode a grade of D. I'm actually thinking I should put it lower, but I think it doesn't quite belong down to where it should be like an F or a D minus. I'm struggling to come up with reasons for why. Maybe as I talk it out, something will actually occur to me. Here's what I wrote when I went through my first round of actually ranking the episodes. This was probably a few years ago. But my feelings in watching this again and reviewing it this time have not changed. I said, I get it. They wanted to build a two-part episode around Sugar Ray Robinson, considered, I don't know a whole heck of a lot about boxing, but considered to be the best boxer, one of the best boxers of all time, pound for pound, at least that's what I'm told. They wanted to do an episode about boxing, which was popular at the time. I get it. I just don't like it. There's nothing interesting for me here. Cinnamon being kind of this lovesick ring rat is dumb. I don't know what other word to say. The wasted time on stock footage of boxing matches and Greg Morris training and all of that stuff is just silly. The main villains have very little screen time until the final match, when the ultimate trap is sprung, and most glaringly, the plot is completely old hat. This is the sort of plot that gets recycled a lot in the the last two seasons of the original episode, which mostly focus around the mob. And it's very, very, very reminiscent of that to me. It's a very standard separate and mislead plot where you have two bad guys and you just have to find a way to pit them against each other, right? And usually it's over money. And in this one, it's not even one episode, it's drawn out over 2 episodes for no good reason other than what I think is the usual reason that there's a 2-part episode where the writers just have too much, or they think they have too much, to cram into one, and they drag it out into 2. And it's. I find it ridiculous that the IMF is kind of involved in this. I consider it to be an excuse mission in a sense, in that, you know what, like the only way it's even, marginally relatable to something the IMF should be involved with is, during the mission tape, it's mentioned that, well, it's going to make the United States look bad on the world stage if, professional sports and amateur sports are hijacked by the mob. Okay, given what we know nowadays about things that go on in professional and amateur sports, this seems pretty tame by comparison, but whatever. It absolutely is. I made a note that this is the worst padding job ever, just in terms of, like I mentioned, the stock footage and the training montages and things like that. It's just like so much wasted. I also wanted to comment that one thing that bothers me is the idea that Barney can win a championship. It doesn't specify, of course, what kind of championship or how big this boxing federation is that we're dealing with here. But if the mob's involved, it's obviously got to be fairly substantial. It's got to be in a big city, and there's got to be enough money involved that it would make sense for the mob to want to kind of muscle in on it. But the idea that Barney, just on the basis of some amateur experience and then some training, and especially having to copy the style of another boxer in order to keep up the the pretense that he is somebody else. It reminds me of something I read once, where, talking about TV audiences, how people will tend to believe, sometimes if you're put in a situation that looks like it's truly impossible, like it could never happen, an audience will kind of suspend their belief and kind of just go with it and say, okay, this isn't based in reality anyway, let me just kind of enjoy it. But when there's a situation presented as real that is improbable, meaning that, oh, come on, that couldn't happen, that's where audiences get turned off. That's certainly what's happening to me here. Is it impossible? No, it's not like this is something that's happening in an alternate universe, but it's something, they're presenting it as something, yeah, this could happen. And I'm like, no, it can't, right? Again, if I were to analogize it to wrestling, again, wrestling is all predetermined and all of that, and I know that. Nobody has any illusions about that anymore. But, for a guy who's been away from it for, umpteen number of years, coming back to it and pretending to use not even his own natural style to copy the style of another person and have any kind of success with it, not in terms of wins and losses, which don't matter in that sport anyway, but in terms of just being able to pull it off in a realistic sense, it just completely beggars belief. And that is a huge problem for me as well. I wanted to try and find something good about it. It's got a decent array of guest stars, I could say, but nothing flashy. Even Sugar Ray Robinson, I mean, again, this is from 55 years ago. I never knew the man. Maybe, some people might remember him. But again, there's nothing relatable to me about that. I took a step back and I said to myself, I happen to enjoy professional wrestling. I don't watch it regularly or anything like that. I used to. And I thought about this and I said, you know what? If they did an episode, if this was not boxing, let's say it was professional wrestling, would I be more interested in it? And I really thought about it. And I said, I might be maybe marginally more interested in it. Marginally, but then I really thought about it, and I thought about other movies and documentaries about wrestling. I said, it would have been just like that, and I don't really enjoy those. I just I can enjoy wrestling, you can enjoy boxing, you can enjoy other things, but this isn't that. This is Mission Impossible, and it just became so much about the boxing and all of that the main mission, you would be forgiven for forgetting what the heck it actually was in the first place. Yeah, I really don't know what else to say. I cannot really find anything redeeming at all about this episode. Again, there's just something that tells me that no, this doesn't quite deserve an F. Um, and I can't really put my finger quite on what it is. It's not totally boring, although, like I said, all of the extra padding footage really is a downer. But yeah, I'm going to stick with my grade of D on this one. Anyway, that's that. Quite a change from the one before it, The Heir Apparent, and quite a difference from a lot of the episodes that we're going to see in the first half of season 3 at least. Anyway, that's all I'll have to say for this one. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all of those who've subscribed already. And please leave your comments. Maybe there's something you like about this episode. Maybe you can say, hey, what about this? And I'll be able to say that, yeah, you know what, that was actually pretty good. I can't put my finger on it right now. Anyway, I look forward to your feedback. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.